Hi, and welcome to my podcast, dedicated for those looking to relocate to Ottawa. If we haven't met, my name is Liam Swords, licensed realtor right here in Ottawa since 2002. I've sold over 1,000 homes, and many of these were relocating clients moving right here to Ottawa. Today, I have the privilege of welcoming Adam Lariviere to our podcast. Adam and I work very closely together, and we thought it was a really interesting perspective to bring Adam on the podcast to share with our audience what the perspective is like for newer relocating buyers right here to Ottawa. Adam's been in sales most of his life, but has joined the team about 2 years ago. So he has a nice perspective to be able to offer considering my over 2 decades of buying and selling. So welcome to the podcast, Adam.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start off, you took the leap into real estate. Walk me through that journey.
I think everybody's sort of always been in real estate a little bit. Everyone's an expert while they're buying or selling, and it kind of goes away. But that bug never really left me. When I had the opportunity to make a change, I wanted to work with people, be around families. And even when I'm talking to my son, what are you doing? Where are you going? Why are you working tonight? I help people find homes. So it's something that's close to me, and I find the excitement helping those families and being face to face with people while you're doing this process.
Absolutely rewarding, like through and through. Question about that relocation perspective itself. 20 years in the business, I'm working with buyers and sellers just like you. But what would you say, from your experience, are the biggest challenges working with relocating buyers? Like, what are they up against when they're coming into the marketplace right here in Ottawa? What are they up against?
I think relocating, it's the distance, right? You're obviously moving from one place to another, really understanding locations within the city, one versus another, school zones, et cetera. A lot of the challenge as well is just making sure to be a clean communicator, being able to get information and data across. But on the flip side, it's really timing, right? If somebody's coming into town, they want to see stuff, you really have to pack a lot into a short period of time because they might be here for a weekend, maybe a week if we're lucky, and really get the most out of the time with them.
Yeah. On the timing, I'm curious how you're running with your clients and that. How do you book it? Like, say, a house hunting trip, buyers are coming in town and they have 15 properties they want to see. They're in for 2 days. Walk me through, how would you get a buyer into 15 properties in 48 hours?
A lot of technology, some tools that we have to use there for sure, but it's really mapping out locations where we want to start. One thing I like to do, if they're coming in from a certain part of town, let's say Montreal or maybe down from Petawawa or something like that, military family, maybe we start near Canada or somewhere off the highway that it's not as long of a drive for them to get all the way through town. So we pick a starting point and we try to book as many as we can with a good amount of time. You don't want to rush through these things, but on average, 15 minutes, 20 minutes per house and be able to get through them as you go. Again, using Google Maps is a friend of mine, making sure that you have that all lined up appropriately.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I know when I started, it's not like we were in horse and buggy days. We obviously had cars, but we didn't have Google Maps. We didn't have Waze. So legit, we had maps that we were using to help kind of guide us to the property and that. In terms of the logistics, right? Again, back in the day, it was we were almost taxi drivers. We'd meet with the client at a Tim Hortons, and they would hop in my car, and I would drive them around. Curious, how has that changed? Are you driving your clients around? Do they use their own vehicle? What's best, and how does that work?
What seems to work best for people is driving their own cars. You can meet where you need to go. And if there's kids in the back or stuff like that, it's really hard to transfer kids' car seats and stuff. But really meeting, I found as well, a lot of the times we'll get to the next place and they've had an opportunity to chat about the last one. It's great to have that conversation in person with them, but sometimes they also want to have that on their own. So we get to the next spot, we have a quick debrief and walk in and see the next spot.
Makes sense. And I've even shifted my approach now with working with buyers and that relocating into Ottawa. It's shifted from old school where we meet and there's that transfer from property to property, and then that dialogue. I don't know, maybe they don't want to be around me or what, but I think it is the world we live in where there's so much information, and the time that they can have on their own going to the next property to talk independently, I think works well. So I was curious what your take is on that. I want to shift a little bit into technology, and I've known you for years, Adam, and the 2 years that we've been working really closely together professionally on the Liam Swords team, and that you've brought a lot of tech ideas to the table, and using a lot of tech that we have right now. But you shared, my first question about how you work with relocation clients and, when they're not here and keeping them up to date. Share with us some of the tech that you're using to help these relocation buyers really feel like they're connected to the product when they're living, as you say, in Montreal, Vancouver, Toronto, or out of the country.
There's a lot too, and I think buyers, even sellers, they're more savvy these days themselves, right? There's a lot of information at fingertips today, but what we want to do is make sure that we're on the same page. So setting up searches, making sure that we're using technology, even something simple as Google Sheets. So I like to create one of these for each one of my buyers so that we can have a shared sheet that allows us to both input new listings, things that we like, if something goes conditional, or we can kind of move it through the actual Google Sheet, but to be able to stay on track with that. As well as when we're scheduling showings, there's tools that you can use to put everything in, and you do a smart route, and you hit a button, and it's great that it sort of says, okay, well, if this is the first one you want to start at, it smart routes the rest of them for you, so it organizes them. So those are the types of things that you need to be able to do quickly and on the fly to make sure you're providing the fantastic service to the client in amount of time that, again, is a little bit more crunched.
Totally. I want to kind of unpack that Google Sheets concept. I think I know what you mean, but it seems to be an efficient tool, right? When you're working with clients that aren't 10 minutes away where you can grab a coffee, like you're talking to people that are out of province usually. Like, how does the Google Sheet, is it a template you set up and they start populating it in different line? Or?
For sure, yeah, it's a template that's set up. What we want to do is usually I populate the first few, right? We start talking about something that might be in the area. I populate the first few. Within the bottom left corner, I always like to have new. So anytime they find something just online themselves or anything that I find, we put it there and we chat about it a bit, see if it's a good fit, and then move it into either scheduling a showing or viewing, something like that, and prioritize what we see from the images. But I also like to take that, and we use a tool, Loom, as well for video recording. So if there's a few that are put in there or a few that we've seen, I'll go through and do a bit of more research and say, hey, look, guys, this one's this price for this. Look at these pictures. Or we can go through some of the additional data that might not be seen right away when they're going through, this condo, there's the fee, here it is. And I can present that to them through the Google Sheet, but also as well through a little bit more of a, not quite a face-to-face, but they can see me talk and see the screen share that I'm doing there as well.
And that's on Loom, right? With that. Yeah. So Loom is this online app that we started using heavily, I would say, over the last 6-12 months. And when we're working with relocation clients, it's great because we have that recording where they can see you sharing with the clients your opinion on the property, and at the same time you're usually probably mousing over like the mapping area because that's usually the biggest thing.
Yep. It's nice too because at the end of every Loom it says, great, you just saved some time. In the sense of, instead of trying to, hey, are you guys free? We need to chat. Oh, you're not available till 5. Oh, okay. We can shoot this video and send it over. So they're getting the same information that we would have had on the call, scheduled for 5 p.m. at night or something when they're available, and they can look at it on their own time.
Makes sense. I want to shift a little bit into the process of buying property in Ontario. And I know there's been some examples that you have lifetime examples and that you've worked with many clients relocating, but one specifically I think that would be important to just understand how it worked. It was, I think you had a client on the Quebec side, right? Moving over to Ottawa, I think it was kind of Carlton Place or something she was buying.
Yep.
And maybe walk us through how that went. Like the process was a little bit different, I guess, right? Being on the Ontario side and Quebec side, maybe just share with us how that went down.
Yeah, that's always a fun one. If you're here and you're selling here and you're buying here with the team, it's good because we have that collaboration and being able to be a little bit tighter on what's going on. Working with another agent over on the Quebec side, there's different rules and just stuff that we're not used to. Here, it's a 5 business day or a 7-day conditional period. Over there, it's 2 weeks. They're also very easy to just sort of extend or amend. And there's some other rules about mortgages that the money is not transferred day of closing. It could take up to 48 hours after closing for the money to be transferred. So things like that, where here we're very, it's the day, that's it. We know the money's going to be here on closing. I had to take into account some of these other variables when we were putting in an offer on our side, just to make sure there was enough time for these, buffer time almost for the transaction. Last thing we want to do is buy a home and the money's not in the bank yet because it hasn't been transferred on the other end.
Totally. I've said over my career, I'm going to make sure you're not homeless or that you're owning 2 houses at the same time. And I know you're doing the same on that. Yeah, it's a different beast when buyers are relocating from the province of Quebec or even other areas of Canada and in the U.S. and internationally in that. So I guess the big thing is connecting with the client, really understanding where they're coming from, and then doing the back end work with the realtor on the other side, just to make sure there's alignment. We're in this every day, and there's certain terms we're using in the field, but making sure that it makes sense for all is obviously paramount. With our current climate right now in Ottawa, with the inventory that's on the market, I would say we're in a balanced market. This shifts around a lot, but my 2 decades in the game, sometimes it's a seller's market, sometimes it's a buyer's market, sometimes it's a balanced market. But what it is, it's always a market. There's always going to be shelter. There's always going to be a house for someone to buy. How are you finding the first-time home buyers relocating to Ottawa? Like, are there products available for them? Are they leaning towards townhomes and condos, like just with the price? Like, what's your take, Adam, right now with the buyers moving in, first-time home buyers moving into Ottawa?
There's definitely a market, and I think with Ottawa as well, there can be a little bit more job security here, government town, etc. I am finding that there's a bit of first-time home buyers. You're either looking condos sort of under the 450-ish mark, or above that, and primarily row homes. Most people are looking for. There's a bit of a break even as well. So with some of the math at about the $450K plus condo fees, you might be able to afford a $525,000 like freehold row home. So it is something to chat with us about where that comes out, and a good thing for us to maybe be in touch with the lender as well, just to know what the spending amount is. But that's where most people are sort of landing right now in terms of first-time buyers moving here. And that also plays into location then as well. Somebody coming into town, if you're more in the West End, tech sector, there might be more cost to that. So maybe we do look somewhere close to the highway in Barrhaven. That might be a bit more of a drive, but you can get a little bit more bang for your buck.
Yeah. It's a great point about the affordability and purchase price. I think most, including myself, we look at the sticker price and we think, $450 is my cap. But then when you take into consideration the condo fees are $700 a month, that translates into a freehold purchase of maybe $570. And don't quote me on that.
Yep.
We're realtors, professional realtors. We're not mortgage brokers, but it's a really good point where the relocation buyers coming in may be distracted with that purchase price of being intimidating, but really when you back out that monthly cash flow that you're contributing to your condo fees, you might actually be able to afford more. Yeah, makes sense. On the first-time home buyer vein and maybe some of the younger demographic, I want to get your take on social media. And social media from an industry perspective, as a realtor, a couple years in the business, building out your niche with your brand, with your friends and family. What's your take on social media?
I think social media is a big driver for what's going on, what people are looking for, another source of information. I need to do better at it myself personally as well. I need to pick that up a bit more. But I even find for me, my approach is sort of personal, a bit more personal in that sense. I have some friends and family now that are they're liking an image or something like that, or oh, hey, I saw you in our end of town. Do you want to stop by if you're doing an open house? Hey, come on, pop in. So that's been nice to see. And then the other side of it as well is adding a little bit more of the personal side, as mentioned. Some pictures of the family and stuff like that. So it's not just all business. It's also hey, family first approach, and I think there's just a bit more connection there. When I did start, though, there was one or two times I asked somebody why they made a choice of different, like, well, I saw them do this thing on Instagram, something like that. So I did get some feedback early on when I started that people were making decisions based off of some social media.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's almost twofold in a way with social media, with um, the offer that we have to the marketplace. And when we're talking about relocation and you're meeting virtually, usually with some of these buyers moving into town, being able for them to do some research on you. Like, what's Adam Lariviere about? What's Liam Swords about? What's Liam Swords' team about? And that's where we're really working hard to put this out so people can see what it's like before they're actually working with us. It's interesting also with social media and photos and stuff, I think, that are sometimes online and videos and that. I'm through houses every day. I know you are as well. And I'm shocked sometimes with what the physical appearance is like in relation to what I saw online. And you're smiling and smirking. I agree. It's comical. And when we think of that relocation buyer who's in Kelowna, BC, and they're like, Adam, that property on 123 Elm Street's great. And you're like, yes, however, why don't I take a rip through it and let you know how it is? Like, walk us through how can you fast track that for some relocation clients who know that time is of the essence virtually, and social media is suggesting that this property is perfect. Like, how would you handle that?
There's some tips and tricks to look at right when you're starting with the images. Location or sort of layout of a kitchen, let's say. If you see it, again, I'm going to just say running north-south versus east-west, then you probably know that's the long part of the home itself. So you can look through some pictures quickly. Another thing there would be, is it a 2 stools or is it 4 stools at the kitchen island, right? So you can kind of sift through that quickly and see. But when you're looking at that in terms of the social media, it's more important to be able to see it quickly and look if there's a video or something like that you wanted to pull into and sift through so that it's not a waste of time when we get there. The other thing that I like to do is previews as well. So I'll be able to jump through and preview a home for a buyer before they get there. So if it meets these criterias of, hey, it fits, the pictures look good, it's a 4-top island, the video might have been solid, hey, let me prioritize that for you, and I'll go do a preview, be able to get in before you show up and make sure it's worth our time for you to see it when you're here.
Excellent. And I thought that's where you were going to go with it. That time savings and boots on the ground and being able to physically go through that property, so that, if we use that example, that Kelowna, BC couple that is moving this way, it looks beautiful online, but like, what is it actually? I have one later today. I'm heading out to Canada, where the property is just, there's something wrong. Like, there should almost be a 1 in front of it. Not that far off. Yeah. I think it's listed at $769,900 for a detached double car garage, finished basement, green space behind. But I'm wondering if there's hydro lines. And there's no pictures in the backyard. The aerial shot, it's difficult to tell. But just example of being able to save our clients time before maybe they either hop on a plane or put an offer conditional upon, and just sort of how that's married up with social media and how, you know, AI and what is real and that it's an interesting world we live in. Are there any other tools that you feel are helpful in the buying process, or you know, when one's starting their journey, like maybe backing it up a bit, Adam, when you're talking with some of these newer first-time home buyers or you know, Gen Z clients and that, are they starting on like Instagram looking at photos, on realtor.ca, on influencers? Like where do you think the start of their search begins for some new first-time home buyers?
I think most people are probably starting realtor.ca, trying to figure out what's out there, what's available. Most people jump in before they know what they can afford. So it is a thing I always say, you know, chat with a lender, mortgage specialist somewhere and figure that out. It kind of hurts when you think you can afford 700,000 and you start looking in that price range and maybe it's only 550 or six. But a lot of people come to us knowledgeable. They do have some data that's been collected or something in their mind with where they want to start, and I think that's because they've done some research. I do hear about people clicking on Facebook ads, things like that might pop up, and maybe that started a bit of an interest there. But social media for sure, people half the time will just follow a realtor because they like who they are, they like what they're about. Some of the stuff that they're doing outside real estate, and that might be where they think they're buying in maybe in a few years, but they're just following a few realtors to see what's going on.
To see what's going on, yeah. I remember recently you were working with a client, military couple that were coming in from, I guess, Petawawa, where we are located, Ottawa based, and Petawawa would be, I guess, a couple hours away, and
Yeah.
the commute it just is not feasible for most. I totally understand. Walk us through maybe that journey, because we do a lot of business with military relocation coming into the Ottawa area, and walk us through sort of how you met them, how the process went, what they ended up zeroing in on, what was important to them.
Yeah. Met them at an open house. So great to meet them in person for the first time as well. Followed up with some information about the home and some additional others in the area. If you know the one that we're at isn't the one for them, great. I just want to help, right? So if we're going to look at a different home, that's fine. Basically started with a Loom video with a search area and sent them over the Google Sheet. What they liked about what I had done, again, being military, they said my Loom video was almost like a briefing that they normally get. I started large with the search circle, went down and really kind of just narrowed everything down to the discussion points that we had talked about in person. So I think connecting with them again in real time, using some of the tools and technology, but also remembering and caring, building that trust that it's like, hey, he listened to me, and following up with the search. And after that, they were able to come back for another week. And when we met in person, they specifically said, we're going to work with you because of these things that you did.
It's great. I think a lot of it's in the follow up and the tools we have access to, and knowing how to use the tools. We've talked a lot on our team and different groups and masterminds that I'm involved in and stuff. It's not like a deficit in tools. It's being able to use the tools appropriately to help the end consumer. And that Loom aspect and how we're able to incorporate that into the relocation journey. With that particular couple, so that military couple that was coming in, there's a bit of a lag time, I guess, from posting message to looking at homes to previewing. Like, walk us through how that sort of timeline worked.
And we got to start a bit early. Again, they knew almost with certainty that Ottawa was going to be it, and that's always a risk, right? You might get your notice and a couple days before, it's not Ottawa, it's Kingston. So that was something that we needed to take into account while we started looking at places. that if we couldn't find a place too early and put in an offer too early, because then they're buying a home here and moving to Kingston. So that was fun to kind of get out and see a few with not so much pressure. But within these showing tours that I like to do, it's really to get a baseline for the market and where it's at, close to when you're ready to buy. And so we would start with a tour of maybe 3 to 5, if we could, within a couple hours, stop for lunch, and then do a few more in the afternoon before they had to take off and get back home to get the kids down. But yeah, a bit more exciting in that sense that you could spend some time to view a few of them early.
Yeah, absolutely. I just reflecting on what you're saying of you guys are starting to work together, and Ottawa was looking like that's where they were going to land, but they couldn't make any decisions until they got that message. I had a recent scenario. I had a couple family who I sold their place in Ottawa, I think 3-4 years ago, Dow's Lake area around the Glebe. Sold their place. They were posted out to Colorado, and they were due back to Ottawa this year, like this posting season. And we'd been communicating, search is set up. And then last week I got the note saying, nope, we're now going to Halifax, which is great. They're excited. They have some family out in Halifax. We were able to connect them with a realtor who we know, like, and trust that can help them buy in Halifax. So it was kind of a nice segue where, we're a part of it. They trust us. We help them sell their place in Ottawa, and then they moved to Colorado, and then now they're coming back, and they were getting close to making the buy in Ottawa, but they couldn't because they didn't have their message. Ended up being in Halifax. We were able to help them out in that sense. So it's really that posting message is key. And before you get that, you can't make those commitments. Yeah. So we're now a little over 2 years officially in the game as professional realtor, Adam. You've done a lot. I'm so grateful for what you're contributing to the team and the clients you've helped, and it's such a nice balance that we have going. But I'm curious, like when I look back when I started and the things that I learned and some of the things I expected and some of the things I didn't, what would you say over the last 2 years you've been like, I didn't know that was going to happen, or I'm surprised that happened? What are some things you've observed over the last 2 years?
I would say that it's the sort of connectivity between not just the realtors, but also some of the other services, we'll call them, the inspectors and the lenders and the lawyers and all that stuff. So, having bought a few homes previously myself, there's a lot of stuff behind the curtain almost that you're not too aware of, and really picking up, providing that top shelf service to clients where you try and take on what you can so that there's less burden on them. Certain documents need to be sent to a lender and a lawyer, and we'll take care of that for them. A lot of people don't just know an inspector that's readily available on short notice. So one of our strategies is when we put an offer in, we're already reaching out to an inspector, because if it's accepted, you've got about 5 business days to fulfill that. So making sure that all of these things are lined up appropriately. And then at the end, when the house gets bought, they're usually so thankful. Thank you for everything that you did. Like you juggled all these things for me, and it made a better experience.
Yeah, it's true. I guess we take it for granted sometimes, just the reliance on auxiliary service providers. Like if we think of like a typical house, there's home inspection, there's lawyer. If it's rural, there's a septic inspection, water potability. If things are going sideways at a home inspection, we need a specialist in, i.e. electrician, if electrical or foundation or engineer. And yeah, it's a lot. I'm not trying to date myself on this, but just it's been a number. I've been in it for a long time, right? And having you on our podcast, getting fresh perspective on a couple years in, is refreshing. So yeah, need to hear. What would you say the funniest, most unexpected event that has happened in your past 2 years working with buyers and relocating?
I have to say, funniest thing would probably be helped a family buy a home, and we went to do one of the walkthroughs after it's sort of firmed up. So between conditional period and firming up, you get to go do a couple walkthroughs before you take possession. And this being their first home, they were really excited. They wanted to get that social media picture of them and the family in front of the home with the sign. So I brought the sign, bought sign topper that we put, and so like, okay, let's go do it. And a bit more of a rural property, so the sign was near the road, not quite close to the house, and there was some snow buildup. So we're like, okay, let's hop over this little berm here. And as we were going through, it was probably up over my knee easily, and they had their 2 kids with them. So getting into the sign, getting out of the sign, we got the picture, but we were almost like handing kids from one adult to the next to get them to the sign and then back over out to the car. So I thought that was amusing. Great picture. They got what they wanted in terms of that first home that sold sign.
Please tell me a behind the scene video of you guys losing a boot.
I
in the middle of
wish,
snow.
yeah, it was. I was not wearing tall boots at all, and there was snow right up to the ankles, and it would have been nice to have some drone footage for that for sure.
Too funny. Well, Adam, this is fun. I was excited to bring you on the podcast. I know you and I work very closely together, and we're looking at constantly trying to find valuable content to bring to our audience about relocation, and not just like the typical mortgage broker or lawyer. And we thought, having you on and sharing fresh perspective, a couple years in the business, social media tools, how we can make that relocation process seamless. So that was the vision, and 100%. I think you totally nailed everything. So I want to thank you, and we look forward to helping anyone out who is looking to move to the Ottawa area. Feel free to reach out, Liam Sword's team. All of our information is below in the description, and Adam and I will do our absolute best for you. Thank you.